friendship could be. My Little Pony. Until you all shared its magic with me. Big adventure, tons of fun. A beautiful heart, faithful and strong. Sharing kindness, it's an easy feat. And magic makes it all complete. You have mine. Do you know you're all my very best friends?
News from Northern Equestria.
Welcome to Season 3. And since this is the first episode, that means we're going to have another epic two-parter.
My dearest Twilight, you must come to Canterlot at once.
Anyway, Twilight has been summoned to Canterlot for some kind of test, so of course she's freaking out.
You're trying to tell me to calm down because it's just a test? Yes?
And is she ever? Meanwhile, the two princesses seem to have something in mind for Twilight that they aren't telling her about.
She will succeed at her task, and when she does, we'll know that she is that much closer to being ready.
You wanted to see me? To give me a test?
I love Luna's pointed silence as she's leaving. Luna's behavior in general in this episode is interesting. When I first saw this, it really had me wondering what was going on that she was so worried about.
I brought my own quills and plenty of paper to show my work.
Anyway, it turns out that this isn't the sort of test that Twilight was expecting.
The Crystal Empire has returned.
Ooh, I don't think there's anything in any of my books.
There wouldn't be.
So the Crystal Empire is a forgotten civilization which was taken over by an evil unicorn called King Sombra. Oh boy, slavery is canon. At least they aren't all so muzzled like in the movie. That definitely took it to another level of dark. Anyway, Celestia and Luna defeated him.
But not before he was able to put a curse upon the Empire. A curse that caused it to vanish into thin air.
But now it's back, and whether it's a cheerful and loving place or a fearful and hateful place will affect the rest of Equestria. So it's all on Twilight to basically protect an empire. So it turns out that Shining Armor and Cadence are now ruling the Crystal Empire, so Twilight and her friends will be joining them there.
I have every confidence you will succeed.
See what I mean about Luna? She's clearly less confident. When you know how Season 3 ends, it's really interesting seeing all the foreshadowing here.
It must be you and you alone who ultimately assists Princess Cadence and Shining Armor in doing what needs to be done to protect the Empire.
So obviously Twilight's feeling the weight of all this. And Spike is just thinking that she had some kind of literal test that she did poorly on.
I was prepared to do my best. Thought I could handle any test.
And welcome to the very first song in this series that just doesn't click with me at all.
Levitation would have been a breeze.
It just feels overly simplistic in a way that comes across as kinda lazy. I just don't care for it at all.
Will I fail or will I pass?
Totally worth it for this piece of animation though, that is beautiful.
My heart is pure. Her heart is pure.
Oof, Spike's repeating the lines makes the song worse somehow.
I wasn't prepared for this.
Now that that's out of the way,
Prepared for what exactly? Twilight! Did you pass?
Twilight meets the rest of them at the train station, and they're off.
Twilight!
Shining Armor?
Nice Empire Strikes Back reference, except that Shining Armor is his own tauntaun.
We'd better get moving. There are things out here we really don't want to run into after dark. Let's just say the Empire isn't the only thing that's returned.
So apparently something is trying to get in, and they think it's King Sombra. And here's what they're up against. Holy crap. Shining Armor tries to hold it back with his magic, and apparently that was a bad idea. It looks like these black crystals form a barrier that prevents him from using magic.
It's gorgeous! There are no words!
Try to contain yourself, Rarity.
Just looks like another old castle to me. Another old...
I love that Dashi was doing that to mess with her. These characters really know each other by now.
Cadence! Sunshine, sunshine!
This is like their version of a secret handshake.
One of these days, we need to get together when the fate of Equestria isn't hanging in the balance.
Don't worry, that'll happen next season. Anyway, Cadence isn't looking so good. Apparently she's been able to protect the Crystal Empire with her magic, and at the moment she cannot stop even to sleep. And of course now Shining Armor can't even help her with his magic.
We haven't been able to gather much information from the crystal ponies.
Crystal ponies! There are crystal ponies?
Oh, rarity. So now it's up to Twilight to talk to the crystal ponies and gather information, and that's right up her alley.
This is gonna be great! I love research papers!
Unfortunately, they don't remember anything.
And I don't want to remember anything about the time he ruled over us. Have we really been gone 1,000 years?
Yes.
It feels like it was just yesterday.
Good lord, they're so traumatized, they're practically catatonic.
My cover has been blown.
Fluttershy isn't sure what to think of the discarded costume of her. Anyway, the main six regroup and reveal that they haven't gotten any information out of the crystal ponies. But there is a library they can check out.
A library? Why didn't you say so?
Thought I just did.
Kind of odd that there are griffins on either side of the door, since griffins exist in this universe and they aren't the species who runs this empire.
We're looking for a book.
We have plenty of those.
You do. You really do.
It's always a good day for Twilight when she can explore a big library. Anyway, they need a history book that would talk about how the Empire used to protect itself from danger.
History. Ah, yes.
It turns out that the apparent librarian isn't even sure if she's actually the librarian or not, so they look around on their own. I like how Pinkie Pie doesn't need a ladder because she's Pinkie Pie. Anyway, it takes a long time, but Twilight eventually finds the right book.
History of the Crystal Empire.
It turns out that the Crystal Ponies used to have a yearly fair that kept their morale up, and that's what protected them. Twilight wants to try to throw one.
Everything we need to know is in the book.
That sounds pretty promising.
Poor Cadence. Here comes another song, but this one's a lot better than the last.
We can save the Crystal Ponies with their history.
It's kind of simplistic as well, but I think it having a lot of energy to it is what makes it work.
Oh, we have to get this right. Yes, we have to make them see. We can save the Crystal Ponies with their history.
Also, could those tiny sheep be any cuter? They look like they came out of a Chuck Jones cartoon.
What's this thing for?
The last page of the book mentioned a crystal heart as the fair's centerpiece. So I used my magic to cut one out of a crystal block.
So they have thoroughly researched the Crystal Ponies' history and have gotten the fair ready.
Hear ye, hear!
I'm almost tempted to think that that's referencing Transformers the movie. That's a very big almost, though.
This is bad comedy.
All of my comedy is bad comedy. Anyway, back to the show that I'm supposed to be covering.
Princess Cadence and Prince Shining Armor do cordially invite you to attend the Crystal Fair.
At the mention of the fair, the Crystal Ponies visibly perk up. Ooh, look how shiny and pretty they are. No wonder Rarity's obsessed with them. In any case, it's the Crystal Heart that they're most excited about.
The Crystal Heart!
Do you think they really have it?
Of course!
And it turns out that the Crystal Heart isn't just a statue, it's a relic that has a specific purpose.
So the light within them can power the Crystal Heart so that the Empire can be protected. I do work at the library. King Sombra said he'd hidden it away where we would never see it again.
So, to quote that song I didn't like, she wasn't prepared for this.
I think we may have a problem.
The book didn't mention anything about the Crystal Ponies powering the heart.
But Sombra was prepared.
It's all right, Twilight.
Cadence passes out from exhaustion and King Sombra begins closing in on the Crystal Empire. Part 2 picks up right where Part 1 left off. Cadence is barely able to bring back the force field, but the tip of King Sombra's horn ends up on the inside, which is probably not good.
You stay here with Cadence. She needs you, Shining Armor.
Aww. So now Twilight has to find the Crystal Heart while her friends try to keep the fair going.
Twilight, be careful.
Stay indoors, Twilight Sparkle.
And yeah, a piece of Sombra getting inside was definitely not good. Meanwhile, the Crystal Ponies are enjoying the fair and it's lifting their spirits.
Who wants a flugelhorn? I want a flugelhorn. Who else wants a flugelhorn? I want a flugelhorn.
So Spike insists on coming along with Twilight for moral support, even though he's not supposed to help her.
I promise I won't lift a claw to help you.
Meanwhile, Dash is taking her job a little too seriously, as usual.
What are you looking at? That's what I thought.
Yep, AJ grabbing Dashy by the tail is still a thing. So now it's Dash's job to joust, so she ropes Fluttershy into jousting with her. I'm sure that's gonna go well. Have I mentioned how adorable these tiny sheep are? I totally believe that no one could be in a bad mood around them. Back to Twilight, she's still looking for the crystal heart, but then she remembers that the castle looks different than it did while Sombra was ruling, so she uses some dark magic to change it back. Take that, Raziel. Meanwhile, Sombra is starting to break in. Well, that's one way to go down the stairs faster. Twilight goes through a door, and instead of taking her to the crystal...
Not only will you not move on to the next level of your studies, you won't continue your studies at all.
It shows her worst fear. Failure.
Twilight! Twilight!
And then Spike looks through and...
You were sending me away.
A fear that will never come to pass.
Aww. Twilight manages to use her magic to open another door, and that leads her to another stairway.
Lots and lots of stairs.
Meanwhile, Sombra has gotten the piece of his horn back. Also, jousting starts. Poor Fluttershy.
Okay, I'll take it easy on you next time. But not too easy. I've got a reputation to maintain.
Just Dashy being Dashy. Meanwhile, Sombra's magic is setting in, and the crystal ponies really want to see that heart now.
Even I can't keep this party going forever.
You're gonna screw this up somehow, aren't you, Pinky? Well, that's not good.
This isn't the crystal heart.
Back to Twilight.
Hold on to me.
She comes up with a way to go up the stairs faster. Pretty clever. Oh look, there's the crystal heart. But of course Sombra's not going to make it easy on her. She can't teleport out, and if she has Spike bring the crystal to the fair, she'll fail the test. So Twilight's got a decision to make.
There may not be enough time for me to find a way to escape. You have to be the one to bring the crystal heart to the fair.
Just then Cadence's magic runs out.
I can't take it!
Holy crap, Sombra is terrifying. Meanwhile, Spike is extremely high up, so it's gonna take him a while to get down to them. And now as the crystal heart gets close to Sombra, he becomes fully formed. When all else fails, throw your wife. So Cadence somehow gets a second wind and rescues Spike while grabbing the heart.
Behold, the Crystal Princess!
You'll notice that the crystal heart is on her cutie mark, so apparently she was always meant to be Princess of the Crystal Ponies. So now the heart is in place and the crystal ponies do their thing and...
What? No, stop! By all the places and toys!
Well, he's dead as hell. I think it's safe to assume that the Crystal Empire is going to be okay.
I do so wish it was permanent.
But good things are better when they're a rarity.
Stop giving ammo to the Rare Jack shippers. So Twilight feels kind of bad that she wasn't the one who saved the Crystal Empire and figures that she'll fail her test.
It's beautiful.
I wish it had been me who ultimately made it so. But it wasn't.
But that just means that she put the future of the Crystal Empire before her own best interests, so it works in her favor in the end.
Far better that I have a student who understands the meaning of self-sacrifice than one who only looks out for her own best interests.
I passed! Oh, yeah!
Of all the songs to end on,
Turns out you were prepared for this.
once again though, adding energy to it helps.
All those doubts that you can dismiss. Trust yourself and you cannot miss.
Meanwhile, Celestia and Luna are giving each other knowing glances. And what's up with that book? And so ends the Crystal Empire. Well, this wasn't one of the best of the epic two-parters, but it was good. Like I said, it starts off slow thanks to the song that Twilight sings near the beginning, but once the Crystal Ponies and Sombra are introduced, things get a lot more interesting. For one thing, like I've said before, I love it when the show gets unexpectedly dark. It doesn't dwell on the slavery aspect, but it doesn't shy away from it either. Not to mention that Sombra is terrifying, and he really did a number on those poor Crystal Ponies. From what I gather, a lot of fans don't care for Sombra, and I can kinda see why. Up until now, the show has been known for its fun and flamboyant villains, where Sombra doesn't really have a personality per se, and almost no dialogue. He plays it totally straight and is just this scary force of evil. And apparently that is what they were going for. He was inspired by Sauron rather than, say, Maleficent. To each their own, but I think he works very well in this episode. With the effect he had on the Crystal Ponies, it wouldn't work as well if he were the fun kind of villain. We've also got a new civilization in the form of the Crystal Ponies, who have kind of an ancient Greece thing going on with the hairstyles. It's also interesting learning all about their unique culture, and I think it was the song about that that really drew me into this episode when I first saw it. Until then, I was kind of lukewarm on it. Also, hey, I wonder if Pinkie Pie has some Crystal Pony in her. This one even kind of looks like Maud. Once again, this episode isn't about Cadance and Shining Armor, but they have a presence in it. And I guess this would be a good episode to point out that I love their relationship. The show tends to stay away from romantic relationships, but the few that are in it tend to be really stable, no pun intended. And these two are a good example. Like, they're just a normal couple who takes care of each other like they're supposed to, and there's no forced drama or anything like that. They are a pair of adults who are in it for the long haul, who clearly love each other. And Shining Armor's constant worry over Cadance's condition in this episode kind of breaks my heart. Speaking of which, go get some rest, Cadance, you've earned it. Next up is Too Many Pinkie Pies. See you then.
It's right, yes, we have to make them